What is up, my ninjas? I'm Strident, and I am back with another review. This time we are looking at the Beast Bomber by Lanard. It is part of the C.O.R.P. I think they're called the C.O.R.P Elite right now. This thing, I want to say it came out the year before last, the Christmas of the year before last, so 2015. And it showed, a couple reviews showed up on YouTube in the early part of 2016, and I was like, if this thing is anywhere near the size of the AV-115 Shark from True Heroes, then I need it. Lo and behold, this thing lengthways, wingspan and body size or body length, it is bigger than the Shark. I mean, it's a monster. It can hold so many of your troops, and it does a lot, which is dope. For those of you who need the real world information, this thing is based off the B-25 Mitchell, North American B-25 Mitchell. It's a medium bomber. This thing got a lot of play in its 40 plus year history. It's a monster. I think it rolled out in World War II, and they used it everywhere, just about. And a number of countries use this in some way, shape, or form in their various air forces. Now, I know in the past I have said things about not just taking a real world vehicle that the military uses and slapping like G.I. Joe or slapping the C.O.R.P or something on it. You have to do some more to it. And if you look at this, they did some of that, but at the same time, it is a real world vehicle, you know what I mean? Taking something that's been decommissioned though, and then adding to it, like the guns on the side, the 4 guns on the sides near the canopy, the newer kind of guns up top, and the side guns in the back. These are all details that they're adding to it, not to say that none of them, no version of this plane ever had them, but, for the sake of this release, they're adding some stuff to it, you know what I mean? There are little things that you could add to it story-wise, like it has these abilities and this and that and whatever, and you can push the design, kind of like what they did with the Rainfire. I like when they do that. That's why I chose this as part of my I'm actually using this for Fenner's company. This will be our season 1 transport. But I like the way that they chose an old school aesthetic and then they brought it forward into the modern age. Sometimes with things like this, that's really simple. You don't really have to do too much because the design itself is somewhat timeless. These guns on here are pretty awesome. They're really powerful looking, and they actually, if you press down the whole top portion of it, they actually start to recoil, just in and out, blah, 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 as if they're simulating a firing action. Both sides of the rear of the plane have machine guns or cannons. They look pretty good. They're on swivels. There's a seat. One is further up and one is further back, and there's a seat for both. So you can have a gunner sitting at those things. Now, on one side of the plane, you have the painted guns on the upper portion, but then on the other side, you don't. I kind of find that lame. They should have painted both sides, but I think that was just for display purposes, so that when you see it in the box, it shows. Cockpit. The front cockpit has a lot of room. There is a secondary cockpit right above it. You can fit 2 people in the front cockpit, and you can fit about 3 people, maybe 4, if the 4th person is small, in the top cockpit. And I like the fact that they're just, right above each other, and this is exactly how it was in the real world B-25. The engines on the wings, they're nicely detailed. There's not a lick of paint anywhere on those portions of the plane. There are stickers applied to it, or I might have actually had to put those on, if I remember correctly. Stickers are nice and big. I plan on putting a wolf on the star so that you can see it's my deal. The gun turret does spin on the top. There is an opening, like a hatch on the top, so you can open it and then you can actually play with the figures on the inside. There's also a handle. You can tie a rope to that and piece of the hatch, and you could actually have the thing suspended. This is the piece that I'm talking about that you can tie your little rope onto and then tie the rest onto the handle, and it will suspend perfectly. As for the cockpit, we're going to talk about that for a sec. As you can see, one guy can fit in there perfectly. That's Arclight. But you could also put 2 guys in there. It does kind of get crowded if the character's a little bit bigger. But there are no sticks or anything for anybody to actually, you know, hold on to pilot the plane. You will have to pretend that they are using gears and, you know, holographic projected, you know, hard light projected, you know, controls and such. The or not the rear, but the top cockpit has space for 3. As you can see, you have the actual area, control area in the front, and then you have like a cargo space right behind them where you can fit 1 to 2 other soldiers. The dashboard for the control space, it's pretty dope. I mean, obviously they didn't paint anything, but there's a reason for that. I'm gonna show you right now.
Roger, Tower. This is the Beast.
Anytime you hit the button, those lights go off, and it's pretty dope. As you move to the rear, you have cargo space for your gunner, for all your gunners, and bombs, probably. This is the seat I'm talking about, one of the seats for the one of the rear guns. It looks really cool. This is the seat for the other rear gun. And then next to him, you have like the middle, the body of the plane, and you have your cargo space. You can actually fit a lot in there, but there is like a bomb bay door right underneath One Shot's feet. Then here is kind of like a crawl space sort of, and I figured, hey, that'd be the perfect place to put big old dire wolf and let him sit there. This is the secondary seat though for the other gun. It swivels, which is pretty awesome. You can get it out of the way so that if you do have bombs, you can actually, you know, let those bombs go down. And I'll show you that door. But it swivels away from and towards the gun. This is the farthest rear gun seat or gunner seat, and there's space in there for other stuff if you want to store weaponry back there. This here is the bomb bay door actually from underneath. It opens pretty wide, there's no issues with it, plenty of room. You just got to make sure you don't have one of your guys standing there when you use it. And yeah, whatever you want to drop out of there, if it can fit, you can use it. The wingspan on this bad boy is pretty nice, and I love the fact that, you know, it's sturdy. You know, the wings seem like they will hold up to whatever you're going to put this thing through. Overall, this whole entire vehicle is just well put together. You know, you could spray paint little spots or airbrush spots to give it wear and tear, but it just overall, it looks really good. I mean, you don't really need to do too much to it, but I mean, if you wanted to give it that worn, you know, the battle-worn feeling, and you don't want to just put scratches and, you know, indent bullet holes and stuff like that, you could, you know, give it a paint job and it will, you know, it lends itself to that. You don't really have to even do that much. You would just be painting the shadows on there, you know what I mean, or the darks on there. But it's a beautiful plane. Now, I wanted to give you a comparison, and I used the other World War II looking vehicle, and that was the P-40 Warhawk from Sergeant Savage, which I also kind of brought into the fold of Fenris Company. I love that plane. I love the styling of the plane, and it fits the kind of aesthetic I was going for with my homage to Contra and, you know, those old video games like 19XXX or whatever. I think it's XX actually. It's not a porno. But you can see it's got that similar style because it's from the same era. It just looks tough, it looks powerful, and it works. So it dwarfs that, you know, and it dwarfs most of the other planes as well. Now, I wanted to make sure I got this in here. I couldn't fit them both on my review station, and I wasn't going to put them on the floor, and I have this, the shark up in the air hanging from that hook, so I figured, hey, let me just put this underneath it. But as you can see, lengthwise, even though I don't have him perfectly positioned underneath it, you can still see that the wingspan is longer. It's an awesome plane. It's not as wide, though, body-wise. Like, when you put people, you could put 3 people in the cockpit of the Shark, you know, and then on the interior, you could fit, like, you know, 10 people and whatnot, you know, standing up and all that stuff. It's just a different shape. So one is a better carrier and the other one is a better bomber because that's what it's for, you know? So the bottom line, my favorite part often. This is one of those things where if you want to have a substantial vehicle that you don't get from Hasbro, then it's a no-brainer. You need this. A lot of times we complain about Hasbro not making the things that we want in our collection, and when they do make it, they either half-ass it and then charge you an arm and a leg, or they whole-ass it and don't even give a shit and just repackage something that might not have been prime from back in the day. This here, it's extremely durable. You know, it's made out of very, very good plastic. You could drop this thing and it's not going to break. You know, I've dropped the shark and the shark hasn't broken, it hasn't chipped, it hasn't cracked, nothing. Same thing here. And this is a little bit lighter. That's just a lot lighter than the shark. So, you know, if that's what you're looking for, then you need this, you know. So this has been my review of the Beast Bomber from Lanard. And this is my story and I'm sticking to it, as always. This thing was 25 bucks during Christmas, and I think right now it might still be 25 bucks, so if you see it, pick it up. That's it for me. You guys have been great. Peace outside.